Welcome to the Jesse Coomer podcast. This is the first time I'm calling it the Jesse Coomer podcast because the name has changed. Same podcast, same me, so we're just having fun. Today I'm accompanied by an old friend of mine and just a really amazing human being, Jacob Bosecker. He's an incredible athlete, obstacle course racer. He does his own podcast called Breathwork, and you can check him out at the links below. Also, hey, there are a few things that I'm using currently that I would highly recommend to you. And if you would use these products, it does help the show. So the first one is Base. Base is a home-based functional medicine program. And basically what it is, it allows you to track certain biomarkers. You get to choose the biomarkers. I personally, I'm tracking testosterone, vitamin D, and C-reactive protein. I'm trying to find out, okay, how are these markers being moved by the choices that I'm making in my life? So every so many months they send it to me. I do a little spit in the vial, or I take some blood. I'm going to show you how it's done in a future live broadcast, but it's not a lot of blood. But basically, I send off my samples, they send me the results via my cell phone, and I can track my changes as I make changes in my life. And I'm trying to push, of course, my testosterone up. I want to make sure my vitamin D is healthy, and I want my C-reactive protein to stay low. Oh, another thing I'm tracking is cortisol too. So I want to make sure, I want to keep that stress hormone down, and I want to find out what are some changes I can make to improve these biomarkers. The only way you'll know is by actually testing. So if you want to try Base, you can get a discount. I believe it's 20% off if you use my code. Take a look at the description box below, or take a look at the show notes for more information. Also, I'm using Kion for a lot of things, but right now I'm taking Kion Colostrum, and I'm taking the Kion Immune Support. Both of those things I'm doing, of course, to boost my immune system. And one of the things the colostrum, of course, is great for is gut health and reducing the cases of upper respiratory infections. So I'm interested in both of those things, so that's why I'm taking Kion Colostrum. You can get 15% off if you use my discount code. Take a look at that in the show notes or in the description box below. So now, without any further ado, I give you my conversation with Jacob Bosecker. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the Jesse Coomer podcast. I'm just changing the name over, and you are my first guest, Jacob. And it's kind of, I guess, it's appropriate because I've known you the longest out of anybody who I've ever had, or probably will ever have, on this podcast. Jacob and I grew up together, and I remember playing on the playground. We went to one of the last. Just real quick, before I get too much down memory lane, Jacob is, many people, if you guys have probably heard about Jacob Bosecker from I call it, is it Brocore or BroCR? I call it Brocore.
It's BroCR.
I think Brocore sounds so much more like badass.
You're not the first I've heard that multiple times.
Yeah, so that's just my own little 2 cents on it. But no, BroCR, huge in the obstacle course racing world. If you're familiar with that world, you're probably familiar with Jacob Bosecker. He's one of the most fit people I have ever met. And I had him come to one of my, actually it was a Wim Hof method workshop once. And the man had a breath hold that eventually I just asked him, hey, Jacob, we kind of need to go on with the rest of the workshop. So if you wouldn't mind, just go ahead and start breathing again. Jacob and I, like I said, we've been friends forever. And one of the things that I really value about our childhoods was that it was so unusual, I guess, for the way the Western world is now. I mean, it was typical back, I guess, in the 1900s, early 1900s, or maybe 1800s. It was almost like Little House on the Prairie sometimes.
That's a very fair way to put it.
Because we went to this, it was a 2-room schoolhouse.
Schoolhouse. That's the way I always describe it to people.
Yeah, it wasn't a 1-room schoolhouse. It actually had 2 rooms. And we literally called them the big room and the little room. And it was because the little room was where the 1st graders all the way through 4th graders were. And the big room was 5th through 8th. And the thing that I think I wish that existed still to this day. I have a 5-year-old son
It's so
now,
crazy.
and the thing is, we had 3 recesses a day all the way through middle school, the end of middle school. 3 recesses a day. You went out and you ran around. Maybe you broke an arm. I broke an arm, but we went sledding in the wintertime. We had PE every single day.
Yeah,
And the thing was, you really had to learn how to talk to people outside of your own age group. You remember, because listen, I forget how you're just a couple years younger than I am, I think.
yeah. I'm 34.
You're 34. So yeah, I'm 39. So there was a time that, we were.
It was intimidating hanging out with the big boomers.
Yeah.
It was intimidating.
Mhm. I remember when I broke my arm, it was first grade, and I was playing jungle gym tag with the 6th through 8th grade kids, like the kind of the older kids. I thought I was the coolest kid ever. I was like, hey, I'm a first grader and I'm hanging out with the 8th graders. And,
Exactly.
next thing I know, I broke my arm. But, that was an opportunity because everybody had recess at the same time every single day. And we got sweaty, we got stinky, but you know what? It made the experience so much better.
It absolutely did. And, there was so much I've talked about like earning your childhood before.
Oh, I love that.
Back then, like you built a ramp, you launched off it, and you accepted those consequences.
That's a good point. And there is something to be said about that because I love, as we're both parents,
Yeah.
And congratulations. When did you guys have your baby?
So we had Alexandria May on January 29th of this year, right before everything hit the fan.
So the 2020 baby, it only gets better from here. Let's hope, right?
We could hope. We could pray.
So, but my child he's 5 years old and he's in kindergarten now. I'm really fortunate that the school that he goes to, they do have recess. Of course, in kindergarten, I think most kids had some sort of a recess, but you hear about that being cut more and more. You hear about PE being cut more and more. And there's a certain degree of, I want safety for my child, right? But there is a value, like you said, in building the ramp. And I remember doing this thing where we had jackets and we would go to the swing set, and for some reason, I
jump off the swing sets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We would go as high as we could in the swing set, and then we would expect somehow, right? We would jump out at the peak, right? We would try to time it just right at the peak. So in our minds, right?
You're flying.
Basically, we were informed as far as what physics was, that we were informed by cartoons and, pretty much that was it. And we expected that, I always expected that my jacket, I could use it as a parachute. And then kind of glide. Same thing. And these things, yes, there were far more injuries, I'm sure, in our day than our children's. Maybe, I don't know. I don't even know.
I think there is a lot to be said about letting us learn things and naturally, and that's how I kind of am as a person. I think a lot of those fundamental rules that I learned out there on the playground are learned by exploring. Have attributed to a lot of my success now in the world of obstacle course racing because I didn't grow up in a very traditional atmosphere. I didn't grow in a very or what today would be considered a traditional atmosphere. I was allowed to make a lot of those mistakes for myself and learn a lot about my body because when you jump like that, you learn how to take a fall.
Right.
When you learn how to do the monkey bars, you learn how to do that really quick and understand how your grip works and how your momentum works and how you can swing.
Right.
That's a benefit, and that carries over in muscle memory years down the line. You just have to relearn it.
Yeah, it's a process of remembering something that you developed in your childhood, and I can definitely see. I think there's a certain degree of confidence that comes from those kinds of experiences, just because, hey, yes, you can get hurt. Okay. So there is the whole, hey, I've been bitten, or burned or whatever, or broken, but you also generally, I mean, unless it really was bad, that, hey, I do get better, I can heal, and then I can actually make some changes and then come back next time. And I think there's something to be said for that, just because I don't know. I feel like there's the real world is not a safe place. I mean, physics still exists everywhere. And I'm not saying go give your kids, rusty knives to play with, but, a playground, the classic playground, with swing sets and slide. We had the merry-go-round, which was
death trap.
I mean, it was a death trap. And I just remember, basically the goal was how fast can we possibly make this go
to get the kids fly off?
And then we would try to do that. That was like, it was probably
that was the baseline. That was the figure every single day. Like,
we're probably just terrible people, Jacob. It's probably just that, from a young age, they were cruel and bitter. But the thing was, those kids were trying to get us to fall off too.
We were learning is the thing. We were learning there through childhood. Like, we were learning limitations. We were realistically, and I talk about this a lot with different people with growth. It was trial and error. At its key focal point here, we wanted to see what we could do here, what we could do there, and it's man, that's a good thing. That's a really cool thing.
I think back to a lot of the bruises and scrapes and things like that, and when I see my son getting bruises and scrapes and things, yes, of course it informs our empathy, right? So we are like, oh, I know exactly how it feels, but I see that and I say, okay, he's growing now. There's first of all, just to develop comfort with pain. My son is still kind of afraid of blood, and he's losing
and some
teeth.
People are.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not saying I just love blood, right? It's not like I will say this, for the longest time, and even to this day, I don't go to the blood bank and give blood just because I'm uncomfortable with putting a needle in my arm or anything like that any longer than just necessary. I'll go, if I like getting blood work done because I want to know what's going on in the inside, but I'm not going to just sit there and say, hey, how many bags you got? Let's see what we can do. But, he's losing his teeth. And one of the things he's afraid of is when we pull the tooth, it's going to bleed. And blood is bad. And so, because blood is the thing that happens whenever you fall down and scrape your knee. And he knows how bad that is because, oh, that poor kid. It was actually his very first knee scrape was last summer. We were actually with my wife in Oregon. She does a doctoral program out there. And it was just me and him, and he fell down, scraped his knee, big old scrape, right? And of course
he's wailing.
Oh my God, bloody murder. And it was bleeding and I had to clean it up, and oh my God. It was one of those times whenever you're trying to help your child and then you're also hoping no one hears and thinks that you're abusing the
judges child. You and
You've got it coming. You've got all of this coming, my friend. And so eventually, okay, great. It scabs over. Awesome. He hates having a Band-Aid on anything. So, okay. We'll let it breathe. As soon as it scabs over, the very next day, he falls down and scrapes it again. And I think we all know the double pain that is the double scrape, right? Oh my God.
Double scrape.
Oh, the double scrape he experienced. It was wretched. Now, you've had your share of injuries. Both, I think about that in childhood. We've both had an enormous amount of injuries.
Oh, absolutely.
But in recent years, you've had some health things you've overcome. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, first of all, to echo kind of on your blood thing.
I
think one of the big things there is understanding things for what they are.
Right. Yeah.
And for me, like getting cut or something now, like, and understanding pain, very similar to like understanding cold. Like
Right. Yeah.
what is it? What? Okay, so this is my blood.
Right.
This is a cut. This is neurons sending, you know, pain receivers to things. Like,
Yeah.
good thing I've still got those receivers.
Right.
But
Right. Yeah.
it's for me, realistically, a lot of it's been understanding mentally what each thing is, and that helps me process it and put it in the right box, if you would.
Yeah.
So my own illnesses here. Yeah. So last year I was what I considered in probably some of the best ultra running shape of my life. I was going out and running 50 milers kind of once a month, pretty regularly. Super long overnight events. And then I came down with, basically I was immunocompromised from exerting myself over a long race. Came down with West Nile, that turned into Horner's syndrome, that turned into viral meningitis.
My God.
A lot of other things, and it's taken a long time for me to get healed. Then life happened, you know, other things happened. We had our first daughter. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get back into shape. I'm gonna start going crazy while COVID's going on.
Right.
And then I came down with rhabdomyosis, which, if you're familiar with rhabdo is no fun.
Now, is rhabdo the only time I've ever really heard about this? It's with extreme athletes. It's with athletes that are always they're pushing the edge. Is that right?
There's exertion across the field, and you have to think about it. It's exertion. It's not specifically just extreme athletes. You could get rhabdo if you're, you know, a guy that's just on the couch and you're like, well, I'm just going to go out and run. We have right now in our society, I feel like, this idea of entitlement with sports and entitlement with doing things. And especially here in the USA. And I see these, and not saying that we don't want to pull everybody off the couch and get people in shape, but you could have a guy, I'm a fan of Reddit. So I look at Reddit and I see these guys like, man, I'm like 300 pounds, I'm 250, but I am just dead set on doing an obstacle course race. I'm like, what one?
Sure.
But because there are like, well, I want to go do Palmerton. Well, Palmerton has traditionally been 8 miles. It took me 2 hours to do. You're looking at 4,000 gains. Sometimes it's going to get up to 90 degrees. You could have heat exhaustion. You need water. Have you thought about all that at 300 pounds?
Right.
No.
Right.
But you automatically, we live in a society like, you should be able to do that. You should do that. And you should, but you should also take the precautions and think about it properly to understand it for what it is.
Right. And the mind is so strong, often it can push us, and that's one of the things where, you know, as trainers, we always want to encourage people, hey, that determination. And the thing is, that determination is generally the thing that's lacking for most people, right? That's the thing.
It is. It can.
That normally it's like, hey man, you've got all the gear, you've got all the diet plans and all this stuff, but you're just not following through. It's normally the other way around, but yeah, you'll get a person that, or
there's both extremes.
What I oftentimes see is now I don't see rhabdo, but I'll see like injuries especially happen from a person who used to be very fit, maybe took a decade off, you know, and then expects to go back and do the same workouts they did whenever they left off.
And I think that's realistically what gave me rhabdo. I was coming through a long period, and I tried to do a very aggressive workout. And the heat, and a lot of other things, basically my body started shutting down. And went into a place like where my liver was trying to process a lot of stuff. My kidneys were trying to process a lot of stuff. I'm like, okay. At that moment, I had like a 1 month, okay, I need to sit down and figure out what's going on in my life. And a lot of medical bills later, I was like, I need to figure a lot of this stuff out. So then I was like, okay, I need to dial back and work up gradually, slowly, the way I need to be doing. And that's what I've done actually in the past. Today is day 66 of my new project that I'm doing. So
Okay, so what is it? It's a hard 75?
75.
Okay.
75.
What is this? Tell me more about this.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we're kind
75
of jumping
hard.
around. We're jumping around for
We
those of
are,
you
we are.
listening, but okay, but you've come through Rhabdo. You've come through at this point. You've gotten over this illness.
Over being sick. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we've got a year where we're not doing anything, right?
Yeah.
We're not racing. So if people want to know a little bit about my story, follow me on BroCR, reach out to me. We've got podcasts on it. But if you're familiar with what's going on in 2020, we're not racing a lot. And I go a lot to these races. I've been to Tahoe, the Spartan Race World Championship 5 times. Before that, when they had it in Killington, Vermont, twice there. Been all over following these ultra running races and some of these things, and this year we're just not doing it.
Nothing's happening. It's tough, I'm sure.
So with the addition of my new daughter and my podcast that I've kind of been doing, because we're not really making videos and traveling places and recording stuff like we used to, I decided to help out some of the local races. A lot in the Spartan races, you'll put on a race here in Indianapolis, you'll see 5,000 people come out for a Spartan race, 4,000 people. The smaller local mom and pop ones, you'll see 700, 800 about.
Okay.
Still
That's
a good
big.
times,
yeah.
Still pretty big, but a lot more local feel, a very different vibe, if you would. So then I was like, well, I need something mentally for myself because they've got me announcing at some of these races. I need something to do. So I started the 75 Hard Project it's kind of been a big thing. It started in 2019. And actually, I just joined the Facebook group for it today, 66 days in.
Now that you're like, I guess I'm going to finish this, I can start the group.
Absolutely. But basically, it's a 75-day challenge. No alcohol.
Okay.
No cheat meals. Basically, stick to a diet. 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes each. One has to be outside. I'm going to say 80% of my workouts have been outside.
Nice.
That's just who I am as a person. I just want to be outside. I want my recess.
Yes, we're looking back to those days. Now, so you've had a sober October and then some.
Yeah. Another one is you got to drink a gallon of water every single day.
Okay, well that's good. So, that's just good. Yeah, that's just good advice.
That's good help. Then read 10 pages of a productive book a day.
Hey, I know a book you should read.
That's the next on my list. I'm right now, which we're gonna talk about that too, because I'm finishing right now the 4-Hour Body by Tim Ferriss.
Oh, cool! Yeah.
And I did not know how much he talks about
cold exposure, right?
I had no idea he was talking about that years before, like Wim Hof got popular here in the States.
Yeah. I remember
cold exposure.
My wife was reading that when we were dating back in like 2000, 10 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that is ridiculous. I'm never going to get in a cold shower.
And well, the 2 big things so you're one of my friends, but another friend, Chris Chapman over in Cincinnati, talks a lot about the pose method of running.
Okay.
And he's a certified pose instructor there. And they talk about the pose method in there too. And I was just like, here the stuff is that we're trying to revisit. And it's here. It's just been a while coming on. So anyway, I'm on day 66 of this trial thing. I'm in probably some of the best shape I've ever been in, health-wise too, and mentally, and just a bunch of other fun stuff.
That's awesome. Now, man, I think about 75 days. I could go without alcohol for 75 days. I'm kind of a sporadic drinker, where it'll be like, hey, I haven't seen these people in a while or whatever. I don't know. 75 days though, that's a long spurt.
It's a long spurt.
Alcohol.
It really is.
So because you're going to have in 75 days, you're going to have a friend call you out of the blue, or you're going to have like a birthday party or something. I guess COVID kind of helps a little, but you still see people now and then.
Yeah. For me, I was getting into a rut where it was just way too easy to drink during the week.
Yeah. With COVID, it's really been that
with COVID and everything. It was really interesting. I listen to NPR about every morning, and kind of I've got certain routines that I follow myself in now, but they were talking about liquor sales during COVID and how it's just astronomical how InBev and things have done. Yeah. It's wild.
I will say that during COVID, like during the lockdowns, I think I drank twice during the lockdowns. And the, I'm not it's one of those things where and then what I'll do is when I go camping, I like to have a few,
Mhm.
or I will, or whenever I have like a friend over or something like that, especially like
Sure.
we haven't seen each other for a while. But during COVID, I found out that at the liquor store, you just drove up, and then like somebody would run out and say, what would you like to do, and then because that was the voice that they always made. I was
Because it makes funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take, you know, and then I started drinking, and I'll admit it. I'm just gonna sit here and admit it. I started drinking those seltzers, those White Claw. I know, and
Clause the law, baby. Clause the law.
I know it's embarrassing, but I was like, okay, basically this is just water and alcohol. So I'm sort of hydrating as I'm drinking.
You make an excuse for it, yeah.
Yeah, right. So I validated it. I was like, okay, yeah, I like it. It's okay. And so I started doing that, and so I did that twice during the lockdowns. But now summertime has been different. Summertime, I've drank probably quite a bit this summer compared to my usual. And so, but now with cheat meals, I think it would be harder for me because I'm a big cheat meal,
See,
kind of guy.
I'm not.
Okay, so that's where we're different there. So yeah, so you're pretty easy on the meals, eh?
The thing about this project, I've talked to so many different people that have finished it, haven't finished it. Everybody gets a hang up.
Yeah, yeah, we all have.
Some people it's reading.
Yeah.
Some people it's reading. Some people it's drinking the water in a day. But I really think like there are certain things that you can do to make yourself in just so much better. Have you heard of Jody I? Do you know who Jody I is?
I'm not familiar with Jody I.
He's done a lot of stuff with Ben Greenfield back in the day. His name's Jody Stefano. He runs Runga. It's this big retreat camp. Good guy, but he made a post the other day. He's like, if you're wondering why you're still sick, if you're wondering why you don't feel good, the questions you need to ask are you getting 8 hours of sleep a night?
Yeah.
Are you walking 10,000 steps a day? Are you eating healthy? If not, are you drinking a gallon of water a day? If not, start there.
It's the fundamentals, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
And this is something I've tried to make 2 videos for my YouTube channel about this. Both times there was somebody who walked by, or it's just somehow the video just got ruined. But I've been looking into a lot of these habits that they have in these blue zones. The places on the planet where they live to 100 far more regularly.
Yeah.
Than the other place.
Sweden.
And it's, well, they've always tried to figure out. I remember, in Okinawa, Japan is one of the places, and they tried to sell. Do you remember coral calcium?
I don't remember that.
So this was a big fad.
Me.
Yeah, of course I used to work at the nutrition store, so I remember when this fad started, and they believed that it was the coral calcium that was making these people live longer, and it was like, well, because the calcium from coral calcium apparently was more alkaline, and it would all sorts of like stuff that sounded real, but the more you looked into it, it's like, nah, dude, there's really no evidence to say that that's what's making them live longer. And the only things that they found are these fundamental basic things, and the one thing that I really think about, especially with COVID, is one of the things that they found is in all of these places, they had very close-knit social groups. Like you knew people, you had friends, you were really close with your family, really close with your friends. And, the way I always thought about it is like, well, in that case, I'd want to live to 100, because friends make life, and it's these simple things, right? Sleep 8 hours a day, right? It's free. It's maybe it's not easy if you're stressed out and stuff like that, but there are methods and remedies obviously for it. How tired are you at the end of the day physically, right? Is it all mental, or did you actually, I love the idea of just walking a certain amount of steps. That's a great start, because so many of us just sit there all day.
So the 2 things I'll piggyback on there is I've got a hardcore line that I've really kind of like embedded a huge life lesson with me. It's going back to your friends thing. one of the
Yeah.
biggest life things I keep around in myself is you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Yeah, I've heard that before
So
too. Yeah.
you really need to like that kind of like keeps me accountable to like, okay, who am I spending time with? What am I doing? And what are my influences here?
Yeah.
How is that influencing my daily life? And the second one to that, talking about Japanese proverbs, there's a great proverb
Yeah.
that I got from the 4 Hour Body,
Yeah.
which is once again going back to fundamentals. And it was looking at Japanese culture, and it said, if you want to live to be 100 years, after each meal, take 100 steps.
There you
And it's
go.
just, but
Yeah.
it's so, and there's so much in digestion in that. There's so much in timing and protein release and lipid consumption, and little things like that just really can make a game changer.
And the thing I'm a firm believer in is that those small changes over time pay off,
Oh,
right?
absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
it's those small things. A lot of times we want to look at, okay, now I'm going to relive, completely rewrite everything about my life, and it's very difficult to keep those changes. Like 75 days, I'm sure you'll be happy after those 75 days. I mean, it'll be sweet to have that first beer or to have a cheat meal, or, maybe I don't have to work out. Maybe I can just work out one time today, just
See,
take
like, I don't know, because I was actually getting ready to make a post about that right now, and
yeah,
it's the cage. So right now in this scenario, I'm thriving, and that's kind of
yeah,
how I am as a
nice.
person. I've set up these constructs for myself. I'm like, okay, I do this every day. It's easy to do it when everything is regimented.
Okay.
When you're out on your own, that's when things get tricky. When you don't
Yeah.
have any rules, it's that celebration of discipline that you can get yourself into that really can help.
So during your 75 days, have you had times where you've had to maybe like friends over or something like that, and you're
Yeah.
like, nope, sorry, can't drink. I'm doing the 75 hard, and on a daily basis. Like, one of the issues that I run into now is that I used to have a far more regimented life, and now
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I don't have any 2 days that are the same, and I'm constantly working in these different projects and things
Sure.
like that. And because I don't really have life where I go to the office anymore. I see you're at home. It's a
Yeah.
Wednesday,
But this
and
is my.
there's your office now, right? And
Yep.
and so it's the same with me. I do a lot of work, but you have to kind of make your schedule. Whereas used to, before all of this happened, it was kind of made for you. At least it's like, well, I'm generally there from this time to this time, or
Yeah.
this is when other people are going to be at this place, so I want to be at this place at this time so that I can work with them, or things like that. So I like the idea. I mean, you're building your own cage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the same cage. It's just made by me
Yeah,
now.
yeah. Do you find that to be freeing in a way?
I think it is, but at the same time, like, you dictate those things. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like it is freeing, but like you become your own worst enemy, because it's like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing
Yeah.
that? And I remind myself, well, it's because I feel healthier and I feel better, and I feel why am I taking cold showers right now? Again,
Yeah.
well, when I'm done, I'm okay and I feel really good.
Right.
Why do I not pick that scab? Well, I'm letting it heal and
Yeah.
understanding things for what they are. I think that's, for me, that's a big portion.
Yeah. I think the problem that I run into, and this is where it is important to have those reminders, I do run into impulses. So,
Yeah, sure.
and I think that's a really common thing. And okay, I have an impulse to do this now or not to do this now. And boy, that impulse is strong, and I'm the only one who's going to know. It's not like I'm breaking some kind of contract with anyone other than myself. And then obviously, of course, it's easy to do.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and hey, but the problem is when you're breaking a contract with yourself, obviously, I mean, you should respect that person as much or more than your boss or, you know,
Yeah,
anything
I
else.
think for me, one of the big hangups, it's not like it's when I don't have something on the calendar working towards
Yeah.
that I become willy-nilly. I
Yeah.
just kind of like, I'm like, I'm going to let things just kind of take its place and do whatever. And I need to mentally for myself, remind myself of, okay, this is for my own benefit. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel more healthy. I'm going to feel just happier. And I guess going back to the 75 hard thing, it's a big thing if you make it a big thing. You know,
sure.
You know, if it's not like the cold, like dealing with cold and taking an ice bath, you know, oh, it's so bad. Oh, it's gonna be so horrible. It's gonna be.
Right. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's cold. Understanding, like somebody said, well, I don't care what you think. Cold is cold. I'm like, yes, it is cold.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
That
no
is
arguments.
a fact. There's no arguments. The way that I perceive it, though, and the way that I address it, that's what defines it for me. And if cold's a big, scary, bad thing, it's going to keep being a big, scary, bad thing for you. If, you know, running up a mountain is going to be, well, you ran up that mountain. Yep. And I ran back down.
Yeah.
So what?
David Goggins, David Goggins has a pretty good thing that he was talking about one time. And you know who David Goggins is, everybody.
Oh, absolutely. Next on my list to read after your book, actually.
Yeah. His book is fantastic. I actually I recommend the audiobook. I don't normally recommend the audiobooks, but his audiobook is kind of like in a podcast format. And I don't remember where I actually heard this, but they were talking about this, and it was interesting because it was the cold. Specifically, they were talking about with the SEAL training, and he said, they're like, how do you get through that? And he said, well, you know that it's not going to be that way forever. There will, you know, this time will end. There will be an end point to this pain, and all you've got to do is make it to that point. And I oftentimes think about that. It's like, okay, I'm only going to be doing this for whatever amount of time.
You can do anything for 20 minutes.
Exactly. I mean, you know, it comes down to will. Obviously, like we were talking about before, there is a physical element to it, right? If you're 300 pounds and you've never, you know, worked out a day in your life, you have to have realistic goals. Same thing, you know, with cold training or anything else, you have to have realistic goals. But, you know, the actual element of doing it, the discomfort you're going to feel, it will be over. And whenever it's over, you feel better about yourself and you just physically, you feel better in general.
And I guess, okay, really good segue here. And I don't want to discredit anybody trying to lose weight or trying to get into shape or something. Like, I don't want to say that, but a really good example is my friend Tyler, who just moved out to Flagstaff, Arizona last week. Like the guy, he is a super runner, vegan, crazy athlete, super in shape. Yeah. We've got this loop here in Columbus, Indiana called the Donner Park, and it's 1 mile long. So are you familiar with Strava?
No.
So Strava is like a social networking kind of game, social media game for runners.
Okay. Cool.
So every time I run, it uploads to Strava, and it's like, okay, here's your time so people can like it and, you know, comment on your run or something. But you can also create segments. And so it's like, okay, who's the king of the mountain? Who's got the fastest time around the school or something? Like, basically, like, runs me so much back to kindergarten and like, growing up at St. Pete's. But so they're around the park, it's 1 mile, and you got to follow the sidewalk. And then when you get back around to this point, that's your time. But there's a constant leaderboard. Well, this summer I decided to go out and crack the leaderboard. Well, I took the fastest time, and I ended up running like a 5:30 mile. And I'm like, yeah, feeling good. All right. And then the guy who had it beforehand came back, and he's like, nope, I won it. So he ran like a 5:25. And I'm like,
oh, dude.
Son of a gun. So then I went back, and I went balls out when I'm trying to do this. When I'm in the 75 hard program, ran a 5:20, feeling great. My friend came back another few days, ran a 5:04.
Oh, wow.
And we were just like, things are getting serious. And right before my friend Tyler moved, he ran a 4:40.
Dude.
Now, here's my point.
Yeah.
Do I want to go out and run a 4:40? No. And that's fine. And that is 1,000% fine. I can still go run a mile. Nothing's stopping me from doing that.
Sure.
But would I want to go and train the next 2 months to run a sub 5-minute mile around the park? I'm okay.
I think that's important. Yeah.
But it's going back to the principles, it's understanding things for what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So many people are like, well, I want to run a Spartan race. Okay, do you want to run? Well, I want to run this one in a stadium. Well, that's very different from running the one in Killington, Vermont, where you have 8,000 gain.
Yeah.
It's understanding things for what they really are.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even your goal isn't running a Spartan race. Maybe it's running a 10K. Maybe it's losing 10 pounds. Maybe it's what we're searching for, I feel, isn't the medal. It isn't it's that accomplishment. It's that next movement.
Yeah, progress. And that's the thing. That's better is better. And
better is better.
And that's really, at the end of the day, we're moving forward, and better is not always going to be the same thing, right? So it's not necessarily faster. It's not necessarily longer. I capped out my ice bathing time, and I don't have any real desire to go set a world record. And
that's fine.
It gives me what I'm looking for, and that's it. And better is better, because now I'm improving in some other areas of my life, or if nothing else, I'm being consistent in this area, or that sort of thing. I get a lot of questions: how long can I hold my breath? Until I need to breathe again.
That's a great answer.
It's a really good answer. It's good. I don't really care how much you bench, right? That was the classic
million billion.
Yeah. Or how much and the thing is, yes, I think we're both competitive people who enjoy competition and
absolutely
want to be pushed to betterness, and that's going back to what you said about the 5 people you hang out with. This is why you want to be careful, but at the same time, I like what you're saying. Just ultimately understand what it is, and don't make it more than that.
Yeah, take things for what they are.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm loving the sound that of your microphone. I'm gonna have to get after this. Here I am. This is my podcast, and I've all I've got is this little speaker here. So
I'm a tech guy here. I really like good tech.
Yeah. Well, from now, I'm making this proclamation to everyone listening or watching that I'm basically about to order whatever it is he has.
I'll send you a link. It'll be great.
Send me some links. Hopefully it's affiliate links. Maybe you can make a little money on it too.
But no, I don't. I do not. And that's another big thing about where I'm at, in products. We've talked about this before.
Oh yeah.
I don't endorse products I don't love. And I've really backed off on a lot of those things. Right now I'm working more with race companies than I am with products, because I believe in race companies. I believe in people who believe in their product.
Yeah. Well, not to mention it gets confusing after a while. It's like,
these people that are Instagram celebrities and then endorse 70 products. I'm like, nah, man, just quit. Just quit.
The people that I work with now are literally just because they're so nice, or I literally absolutely use the product. It's it's got to be both of those things. It's like, you guys are really nice, and then actually I do use your product, and then that's it. I think I only have 2 affiliates. Of course, there is the chocolate affiliate and the CBD affiliate. But my chocolate guy, dude, next time, oh my God. I have a friend that is a craft chocolatier. And and so during COVID, dude, I gotta say.
See, and I'm not a sweets guy. I'm just not.
I'm not either. Here's the thing. I'm not a sweets guy. I'm a savory guy. For me, my cheat meal is normally pizza or mac and cheese, something. It's going to be like that kind of a taste. But I went out to North Carolina and tried this chocolate, and I was just like, here's all the money I have. Please send me as much chocolate as you can, please. So I ate it all, and I realized that I'm like, okay, I can't have that in the house. It's just, I can't have it in the house. It's just not going to work. But hey, brother, thank you so much, man, for being.
Hey, no problem. Happy to be on the podcast.
Yeah, you're just, of course, you'll be on more often, I hope, in the future. And could you just let people know kind of how to get a hold of you and what you're doing these days?
Yeah, so what I'm doing these days, I've got the podcast. We've got a race coming up here, and it'll probably be done by the time you put out this podcast this weekend. It's up in Chicago area, and we're actually giving away. We've had a great turnout from one of our affiliates there. They gave us about $13,000 worth of sunglasses we're going to be giving away this weekend from Gooders. So,
dude, that's awesome.
Fun stuff there. I love doing that kind of stuff for the community and the people that we work with, as well as we're going to be giving away a ton of protein shakes to all the finishers. It's going to be cold in Chicago this weekend.
Yeah.
But if people want to reach out to me, BroCR on Facebook is a great way to get a hold of me. Or my own Instagram stuff, Bosecker, at Bosecker on Instagram. That's a great way to get a hold of me. My name, so many people have asked me if my name is actually Bosecker, but it's actually Bosecker. But it just caught on. So I was like, all right, let's
go with it. Go with it. Awesome, man. Well, I'll have all the links in the description. Thanks again, my friend. And thanks everybody for watching and listening. If you haven't already joined the Patreon club, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Join the Patreon Club, take a look, and don't forget to go out there and be kind to one another.